right, I'm live. So I wanted to hop on here real quick and just discuss what I think is going on in the Middle East because it's got me worried. I haven't been worried quite like this in years. I'm going to stick with economics. I'm going to do my very best to just stick with economics and not to go into any of the political type of stuff that worries me. It'll probably sneak in a little bit. I can't lie. I'll probably, accidentally go into a little bit of politics stuff, but I'm going to do my best. The channel's unbiased money, and that's what we're going to try to stick to here. So what's really going on, I think the U.S. version of this war and the Israeli version of this war, I think are two different things. I think Israel is fighting a religious war. They're fighting a war for their survival, for what they think, for what their religious ideology believes, particularly, when it deals with the end times and the coming of the Messiah and those sorts of things. And to be honest with you, those types of wars for me are much scarier than economic wars. And what I believe the U.S. is fighting is primarily an economic war. Now, is there some tie-in with the Epstein files? Probably. Let's just be quite honest. There probably is. Again, I'm going to remain unbiased here. Our government has for a long time been full of bad hombres and women too. And that's really coming to light a lot now. The basis of my political ideology, for the most part, is that the government should have as little power as possible. They should do the minimum amount of things that they can to still help organize civilization and help organize the economy. But aside from that, they should get out of the way. And I'm firmer in that belief now than ever, based on everything that we've found out, and based on what we haven't specifically found out yet, but we can probably deduce based on the findings in the Epstein files and stuff. I haven't dug into it very deep. I don't know a ton of specifics because I don't want to. There's nothing I can do to change any of it. It's disgusting and horrible, and it's embarrassing that our business and political and global leaders have participated in all this kind of stuff. So is there an aspect of that in this war? There probably is. If you understand what the Epstein strategy, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, what Epstein was really all about, what he was trying to do, then it makes a lot of sense that we would be sort of doing whatever Israel wants us to do right now. And that's a scary thought. So I think that there's certainly an angle of that. But also what we're doing is we are, I think, in a roundabout way, sort of at war with China right now. Economically, we've been at war with them for 20, 30, 40 years probably. And, politically, we don't align at all. Economically, we sort of battle each other. So that's going to be what's going on for a while. And what I think is going on here, we took Venezuela, which supplied a lot of oil to China. We cut that supply off. It was sanctioned anyway, but they went around it. And then Iran, the oil is sanctioned as well, but China goes around that as well. So if China loses the oil supply from Venezuela and then also from the Gulf region, particularly from Iran, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They're not going to have enough oil to push their economy forward, to push their military forward, to do these other things. So I think that's a big part of what we're doing. Now, the reason we're saying we're doing it is because Iran mistreats the people, which it does. And because they're building nuclear weapons, or at least attempting to build nuclear weapons, which they probably are. They almost certainly are. Can't really blame them for that. We've sanctioned them into the ground for a while. They don't seem to care. But they probably were. So I think our strategy should have been, let's go drop some bombs on their nuclear facilities and get the heck out of there and move on. And we'll come back and do it again in 5 years, and then we'll have to do it again 5 years after that. That would have had a much less economic toll on everything, but that's not the way that it happened, right? As soon as, I think it was within 2 hours of us attacking with Israel, Iran responded, and they blew up U.S. military bases in many other countries. At least that's the story we're getting. I'm not 100% convinced that that's really what happened. But within a few hours of us attacking them, several of our military bases in the region and other countries were blown up. So there's two possibilities. Either Iran targeted those, which would make sense, but the thing is, we'd evacuated. They were empty. I don't believe there was a single human being there, and all of our equipment was gone too. So why would that be the first thing Iran did? Did it cost us a lot of money? Sure. But not as much as it would have. It's sort of like, Pearl Harbor. We got the aircraft carriers out of there before they came. Does that tell you that we knew they were coming? No, not really. But it lets you know at least that it wasn't as bad of an attack as it could have been. And I think we're seeing some of that here too. I mean, they attacked about 5 countries in the region. It doesn't really make sense, and Iran would have wanted to involve 5 other enemies immediately. It's like if you get in a fight and you punch 5 of your opponent's friends right away. It makes absolutely no sense at all. But what could make sense is how do I word this? If you make it look like your enemy punched 5 of your friends, even if that means that you have to be the one punching them. I certainly don't know that for a fact, but I wouldn't put it past military strategists to say, let's go blow up some of our own empty bases, blame it on the enemy, and then maybe those countries will say, well, we need to jump in and help now. So now you've got 5 more friends on your team. I don't know if that's what happened, but it would not surprise me at all. Economically, the Strait of Hormuz is incredibly important. If they haven't had to militarily shut it down yet, but if they can get the insurance premium to go so high on anything that passes through that nobody can affordably send ships through there, then they've effectively shut it down. And that's basically what's happening right now. So you can expect anything that does eventually go through there to be probably selective of where it goes and what it is. They're certainly not going to send anything out of there to anybody that they perceive to be an enemy. And they're probably going to be selective in what goes through as well. And the cost to ship things through there, even if Iran is letting them do it, it's probably going to be significantly higher. And one of the most important things that hasn't been really reported is that nitrogen fertilizer goes through there. I think it's the biggest supplier in the world. And it's the time of year when that needs to be flowing freely so that nations can plant, grow, and harvest their food sources. And if that doesn't happen, if none of that gets through or it costs significantly more, then what kind of impact is that going to have on the economy, particularly in the regions where they rely on specifically this nitrogen? If gas prices go up, I mean, we're already seeing here. I live in Texas, and it's up probably 60 cents a gallon already, over the last week or so. Last week when I made a video, I said we're going to see $100 oil. There's no doubt about it. And when I woke up this morning, it was like 101, 102, something like that. So you can probably expect that to go higher the longer this goes on. I don't know, when it might peak, but so you can probably expect that to go higher. And again, expect that as long as if Iran's shutting down the strait or monitoring it closely, or expect that they're going to pick their friends to be receiving whatever goes through that strait. And so anybody that's not their friend, they're probably not going to allow those vessels to go through. And anybody who's on the receiving end of that, if it's not their friend, they're probably not going to allow those vessels to go through. So the longer this drags out, it's going to have a lot of unintended consequences, I think. And a lot of those are going to be economic. Wars aren't fought, the way that they used to. We're not talking World War II here, where we're just going to go carpet bomb a city into oblivion. Is there some unnecessary loss of life? Of course, and that's sad and tragic. And I wish that wasn't the case. But the wars, like this type of war, is sort of really an economic war. And whatever they're telling you in the media, whatever you're hearing on the news, it's at best partially true. They're certainly not telling you the full truth. They're not telling you why this all really happened. They're not telling you how long they really think it's going to go. They're not telling you, obviously, for obvious reasons, what their next move really is. So expect the unexpected, except for that, this is going to be an economically challenging time. Pray that the impact on America, assuming that's where you're at, is as light as possible. But this is going to have a major impact, particularly in the region. Every country in there relies on the Strait of Hormuz for a large portion of their economic output. And obviously, the destruction, all of that stuff costs money. It has to be rebuilt. The inputs, and if you can't get the inputs in because the war is continuing and ongoing, you can't really get the outputs out. So the longer this thing goes on, the harder it's going to be for everybody around the globe, because everybody's going to be impacted one way or another. Also, the longer it goes, the more likely it is that somebody makes a really bad decision, or makes, just a strategic tactical decision that they think is necessary, that escalates this thing to the moon immediately. Let's just pretend like we live in a world where China shoots a hypersonic missile, it sinks one of our carriers. I don't want to live in that world, to be honest with you. That can get really ugly really quick. What if China says, "Hey, Iran, we accidentally left a nuke right on the border, like not quite in Iran, but this is right. We accidentally left it over there with the launch codes." I don't want to live in that world either. I don't want to live in a world where anybody's at threat of getting nuked, or this thing escalating into truly world war. But it has all the necessary requirements. I mean, you've got religious fanaticism on both sides. You've got economic power and economic reasons for this conflict to continue and to go, full bore in one direction or the other. China can't afford to lose Venezuelan oil and then Iranian oil within a month or two, however long this has been. They can't afford to do that. And they know, they're not dumb. They know that that's what's going on right now. And so they're, from what I can gather, providing real-time GPS, them in Russia, real-time GPS data to Iran. That's why their strikes have been pretty accurate. Now they've slowed down a lot. Iran is doing a lot of posturing and a lot of chest pounding. They want to seem like they're Superman. They're not. But they want to seem like they are. And so they're going to say and do whatever they think is going to benefit them strategically. But let's just pretend like China is quietly aiding Iran and Russia is quietly aiding Iran. Aiding Iran. But let's just pretend like this thing goes off the rails a little bit, and it's abundantly clear that Iran is losing bad, and that part of the motivation is to keep China from getting their oil. What would China be willing to do at that point to step up their involvement? I certainly hope it's not flying missions or shooting missiles, but could you blame them at that point? They're probably already giving all sorts of intelligence and potentially some weapons to Iran. Let's pretend like some other countries in the region get involved as well, especially when it deals with the the Sunnis and the Shiites. I mean, there's a lot of different angles that this thing is coming at us from, and I don't like it one bit. I don't like it one bit. Again, I'm trying to stick with the economic fallout of it all. I would expect this to be a major drain on the U.S. stock market. Expect defense stocks to go up. Expect oil to continue to go up. I don't know where it'll peak. It depends on how long this thing goes, what the other ramifications are. I would expect silver and gold and other precious metals. I would expect them to go up, but they haven't yet. And the other bonds, I mean, it's kind of out there. Japan is raising their rates. Their economy is having a lot of trouble, so they have a major impact on rates as well. So I would love to say that I see the shiny silver object, the shiny, glowing thing at the end of this ordeal, but I really don't. Even, if we both stopped right now, we could both go home and, we could go back and say, hey, we won. Of course we won. And Iran could go back to their people and say, hey, we won. Yeah, sure, they knocked out our supreme leader, but we defended the country and kicked him out within a week. That's probably the best case scenario. Let both, I guess all three sides, go home, tell their people that they won, and get back to square one on this thing and realize we should have done this. All sides of this have made mistakes. And again, whatever we're hearing in the news, whatever you're reading, whatever you're seeing on Facebook, and whatever, the video is probably 75% of them are AI, so don't believe any of them. And what you're hearing in the news, it's what the military and the government is feeding the news. Do not expect them to be telling you the truth. Certainly not the full truth. There's some other stuff I want to get into, but I'm trying to stick with just the financial side and economic side of this thing. I would position yourself, defensively. I would not expect, a major bull run in much of anything other than potentially if you're looking at stocks, defense stocks, maybe mining stocks, maybe drilling, oil and gas stocks. Aside from that, I would be incredibly cautious. If the way that the system is sort of structured right now, if this thing drags on, it could be what they call the linchpin that just brings so many other things down. I feel like the market is sort of hanging on by a thread in many, many ways. Anyway, so this could be, like the Jenga thing. This could be, we pulled out the wrong thing, and now the whole thing starts crumbling down. I really, really, really hope that doesn't happen. But the longer it lasts, the more likely that that's going to be the case. So let's all pray that this thing gets ended, quickly without any more escalation. We've already fought, in Venezuela. Obviously, we didn't have any casualties, but and then here we are in Iran, and we're talking about going to Cuba and making some changes there as well. And all of those point again towards we're doing this at least in part to disrupt the Chinese economy, and they're not going to like that. It's not that different from pulling up to their driveway and siphoning the gas out of their car. Like, was it necessarily a violent act towards them? No, but it's showing that you've got some ill intent. And if you're the homeowner and you come out and somebody's siphoning the gas out of your car, how mad do you get? I don't know. What's the proper response? I don't know. But I would say don't stick around and find out. So let's pray this thing gets resolved quickly. It doesn't look like it's going to. Neither side, it seems like they're willing to do much negotiation or de-escalation. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop praying that it does. And so that's where I'm at. I'll try to do some more updates. I've kind of pulled back from discussing all the silver and some of the other stuff I like to talk about as well, just because this is obviously sort of the most critical thing, and it's changing so quickly. So I'll do my best to keep you up to date. And if anything major happens, I'll hop back on and let you know what I think. All right, till next time. I don't know how to actually stop this.